Daishan has been fighting against pollution in China. He used to work as a journalist, but now he's one of the country's best-known environmental activists. Huo uncovered a cluster of cancer cases in the village of Huangmenning and made it public. The villagers call this Cancer Street, says Huo. At least one member of every family has cancer. In that family over there, the woman is suffering from stomach cancer. She's bedridden. And here's another case. Kong He-chin has bowel cancer. Sun Wei-jung is ill too, and this is where Liu Yuji's family lives. She has bone cancer. We can visit the family.
谁在家？怎么进去了？哦，你好，你好，你好。刘一直，哦，你在屋了。
Farmer Liu Yuji is unable to work. She's been confined to bed for years. Every time I drink, I get a rash and the water leaves a bitter aftertaste in my mouth, she says. I can't eat. I don't have the strength to walk. I have these spots everywhere. I feel so weak. Liu says that since she's been ill, her whole body hurts and her bones and joints are swollen. Huo explains that the doctors couldn't find out what was wrong with her until a senior physician at a hospital in the city diagnosed bone cancer. Analysis of the water in the well showed heavy metal levels 3,000 times higher than permitted. Huo takes us to meet another neighbor. Sun Fenjun has esophageal cancer. My whole body hurts, he says. You're so thin, you don't look well at all, says Sun. He collected money when Kong He-chin fell sick 8 years ago. The family couldn't afford the difficult operation she needed. Kong's husband even considered selling their daughter to pay for his wife's treatment. Huo managed to prevent that. Kong lost most of her large intestine. Sometimes I can only walk a few steps, she says. I can hardly move. When the cancer hurts a lot, I would rather kill myself and carry on living and suffering like this. The cancer doesn't come at the beginning, says Huo. First, people have diarrhea. The cancer comes later, in the liver, the stomach, and the bowel. We gathered data for 8 years. When we evaluated it, we determined that many more people die here than elsewhere. The cancer rates in the villages are 15 to 24 times higher than in comparable areas. The irrigation canal in the village is a stinking cocktail of toxins. The sediment contains heavy metals and many carcinogenic chemical compounds which have been washed in by the Huai River. Farmers have used the contaminated water on their fields for decades. It finally reached the groundwater and from there the wells. Almost all the rivers in eastern China have become gigantic sewers for the largest industrial area in the world. Thousands of companies pump toxins into the country's rivers to this day. And the effects are hitting everyone who lives near the river. They're not limited to factory workers. Huo Daishan has set up a base for his campaign to save the Huai River in his home city of Shenchu. It's a center for fellow activists. He spent the past decade documenting the environmental abuses. Huo publishes a blog, and state media also carry his reports. He's even won prizes for his photos in China. That helps him finance his work. Private donors also support his efforts. But most of the time, money is tight. His sons often help him at work. But things can get quite dicey. This mission would have been life-threatening without a breathing mask. Huo says that only 2 weeks after these pictures were taken, and only a little further downstream, farmers went to the river to get water for their fields. There was a lot of foam and they tried to scoop it away with their buckets, he says. But that released the stink of the contaminated water. They lost consciousness and collapsed. It was hydrogen sulfide. Someone called an ambulance, but it was too late. It ended in tragedy with 6 killed and 4 injured. Together with his eldest son, Huo Daishan has set up 8 observation posts along the river. Local helpers even use paragliders to document new sources of pollution. When they find a case, Huo rings up the Ministry of the Environment in Beijing. The local authorities only react to pressure from the top. And sometimes the water quality improves as a result. But it often takes only a few months before the pollution returns. Huo's youngest son, Minji, studies art and helps out with the photography. He finds his father's dedication inspiring and is painting a portrait as a birthday present. In the past 10 years or more of working to save the Huai River, my father has experienced a lot of injustice, contempt and abuse. He's been beaten up and hurt. But right from the start, he's fought vigorously for what's good. It's also thanks to him that awareness of the dangers of water pollution is growing in China, he says. So far, Huo and his son have visited 400 villages along the Huai River system and documented the results of the accumulating pollution. Today, they want to install a water purification plant in the village of Dongkunsonglu. They built the water tank with the villagers. Years ago, a Chinese man living in Japan saw a report about Huo Daishan and recommended a microbiological water purifier. And because the technology works, they're installing it in village after village, sponsored by supporters in Japan. In recent years, we've installed 28 water purification plants which are providing around 10,000 people with clean water. The rates of cancer have fallen, he says. In many of the villages with the equipment, there haven't been any new cancer cases for 5 years. We've also spoken to the water and technology ministries of the provincial government, he says, to make sure they use this technology where it's needed. But that's led nowhere. But they haven't given up hope that their solution might one day be applied on a greater scale. A lot of people asked me, he says, why I let my sons carry out this poorly paid environmental work. They could earn a lot more money working elsewhere. But I think there are enough people in our society who earn a lot of money. What's missing are people with a sense of responsibility. I hope that the younger generation develops a stronger sense of responsibility, compassion, and respect for life. The Chinese government in Beijing is investing the equivalent of billions of euros a year in economic development. At the the same time, the protection of the environment is being left to individual citizens, who often have access to very limited funds. Huo Daishan has come to Beijing. He's visiting a fundraiser for a foundation which seeks to provide clean drinking water for school children. It shies away from criticism, and in return, it has plenty of coverage in state media. The well-known blogger Deng Fei set up the foundation. He wants to work with Huo Daishan and try at last to get more money from the government. But first, a prize is awarded to Huo Daishan for his work in saving the Huai River. The organizations hope that if they work together, the environmental movement in China will achieve more. Huo Daishan knows that without state help, tighter controls, and a stricter application of the law to polluters, his struggle will achieve very little. Whenever I'm out in the country and speaking to people, he says, I feel very sad. That's the reason why I want to change this tragedy and make the situation better. I have to do something in this life, but I'll only be really happy if I achieve something. Huo Daishan has waited for 15 years for state recognition, and at last, a commission is coming to visit his clean water project and to speak to those ill with cancer.